if you're brushing up on the movie's commentary for the first time. So for the next 10 minutes, you're about to see a really awesome sci-fi mystery, or the movie takes a unique look at fatalism. It's the ultimate, showing the ultimate fatalism. It explains the concept of the time loop perfectly. The superbly cerebral setup has left countless moviegoers calling out, crap. It's X Destination, released in 2014. The Future MIS Past, which was released in theaters in 2014. Io save he musi proisi ju2ri9 his pas1 its X Destination, which was released in 2014. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have a whole new understanding of predestination after reading this. The story begins in the early morning hours of September 13th, 1945. Mystery man dumps a baby girl in front of an orphanage. The dean heard the cries and opened the door to check on them. The doctor went through all the tests. Confirmation that the baby girl is in perfect health, for a good childhood. The dean named her May. Of all the children in the orphanage, only May is the most worrying, because she's never been sick. But as we get older, Xiao Mei is becoming more and more lonely. She began to yearn for the outside world, envy those children who have a father for every. For the first time, she had the courage to leave the orphanage. I almost got hit by a car on the road, confronted with verbal abuse from the driver. She smashed a car lampshade with her fist. It's a good thing the dean showed up when he did, or that's what stopped this conflict. 4 reasons of character. Whenever Xiao Mei is bullied by her classmates, she'll defend herself with her fists. Not only that, but Mai's talent for math is also beyond the norm. Little Beauty. How to learn math by drawing in class 15. The answer is correct. But this talent has caused ridicule among his classmates. Nerd. That's enough. Seeing other children being adopted, May began to doubt herself and even develops look anxiety. She hasn't looked in the mirror since. And I'm forgetting what I look like. Until one day, Xiao Mei's life took a turn for the worse. Xiao Mei's life took a turn for the better until one day. Until one day, Xiao Mei's life took a turn for the worse. The man is Robertson from NASA. He saw Xiao Mei's physical fitness and math talent, so they invited her to apply for a job at the space agency. Mei Turi passed the interview. Mai's page is up. Bai tops all physical fitness tests. Even the written exam was better than ever. And that's why Mai recognized the discontent of the others. And because of that, Mai is getting a lot of grief from the others. The two got into a heated argument, and the brawl disqualified her from applying for the job. Robertson promises to counter-express the situation to his superiors. Get May back into the space agency. Pending response. May works as a nanny at her employer's house during the day. In the evenings, they go to school for etiquette lessons. She worked hard to change herself, just to get into the space agency again, until a man came along. It changed Xiao Mei's destiny forever. The other guy doesn't know what's going on inside her head. He's got a distinctive air about him. They fell in love very quickly. But happy times are short. On the last date, the man had to leave. He hasn't been seen since. Everything's back to normal again. It's good that May waited for Robertson's reply. The job application was just a cover. They told her. They're trying to use the space agency's platform. A recruitment of some competent people. Secret missions for the government. And Xiao Mei is not bound by her family. And all competencies are met. So she's perfect for the job. But one thing came up. It's completely shattered the beauty of the situation. May is pregnant with a man's child, waiting for labor and delivery. For the first time, she felt alone. But May decided to have the baby anyway, unaccompanied by family members. May, after hours of grueling, successful delivery of a baby girl. But the doctor brought news she couldn't accept. Doctors found during surgery, May has both male and female fertility systems. It's not very mature though, but it will also allow her to get pregnant and have a baby. Maybe due to uterine damage during childbirth. The doctors had to perform a hysterectomy and remodeled his own male urinary system. From now on, May will have to turn into a man and continue her life. The results of this were too much for her to handle. But for the sake of my own daughter, all she can do is live. But just 2 weeks later, a mystery man stole her baby. Look at the empty crib. Xiao Mei's heart completely collapsed. And within the next month, the doctors operated on her 3 times. May started trying to speak in a male voice. When she looked at herself in the mirror, it's become a man's face. Xiao Mei also changed her name to Xiao Shui, Xiao Sai. He came to New York to make a living and got a job at the newspaper. While typing, he got the idea to become a writer. One wrote a novel about his experiences, even though he has a unique female perspective, but the novel is still lukewarm. That day, Handsome came to the bar to drown his sorrows. In casual conversation, I learned that the bartender had read his published articles. It's as if Shuai had met his soulmate, told each other about their experiences. When it comes to the man who ruined her life, Handsome's eyes are full of resentment. The bartender suddenly asked, "If I could bring that man to you, are you going to kill him?" Handsome answered in the affirmative. Shifu will have to take his place, but only on condition. Turns out the bartender's real job is an agent of the Space and Time Bureau. His leader is none other than Robertson. The bartender took Handsome to the basement and then pulled out a time machine. In the face of Xiao Shuai's skepticism, he didn't explain too much. Instead, it's set to 1963. This is the time when Handsome and the man first met. When the bartender flicks the switch, they traveled instantly to an abandoned warehouse. The time at this point is April 3rd, 1963. Handsome looked out incredulously. This is exactly the scene he remembers. The bartender told Handsome, "The mission of the Bureau of Time and Space is to travel to various points in time, to stop an imminent explosion. And the man Handsome is trying to kill is probably a bomber. As long as he makes it through the mission, he's invited him to join the Bureau of Space and Time." Shuai followed the address to the school. Just then, a woman accidentally bumped into him. "Pardon me." Xiao Shuai suddenly heard an incredibly familiar voice. This is the same May before the sex change, since Handsome never looks in the mirror. That's why he doesn't know that he's the same person he used to be. Instead, he fell in love at first sight with May in front of him, and not far down the hall. The bartender watched them. He seems to have expected this outcome. The bartender set the clock to 1970. You decided to go on a mission that failed last time. With the time machine activated, the bartender came to the site where the bomb was planted. Based on the last experience, he found the bomber without incident, and the men have planted the bomb. The other guy sensed the danger behind him. The two men rushed to shoot at each other. In the meantime, the bomber fled the scene. The bartender searched for the man. Unexpectedly, he was attacked from behind. Men don't kill. Instead, they chose to leave the area. When the bartender woke up, I heard a shot. He's back on the scene again. The bomb was found to have detonated. The bartender walked up incredulously, handed the time machine to the other side. The agent moved the clock to 1992, and then disappeared without a trace right in front of him. The bartender picks up the pieces of the timer on the floor. Turn the clock back to 1964. That's 1 year after Xiao Shuai and Xiao Mei met. He didn't expect it. The mission to stop the bomber will fail again. And an even bigger bombing in 1975. It's going to kill more than 10,000 people. That's why he had to kill the bomber beforehand, stopping a tragedy in its tracks. But the Bureau of Space and Time has a rule. Re-entering the point in time is a travel violation. Afterwards, the bartender gave Robertson the timer fragment he'd found. Maybe we can use it to pinpoint the bomber's whereabouts. Robertson made a point of telling the bartender that this violation of the crossings will not only change history, it also causes irreparable damage to the body. But the bartender doesn't care about that, so that I can have Junior replace me before I retire. Robertson told him to take Handsome's baby, this creates a perfect closed loop. Save more innocent lives. At the end of the night, the bartender stole the baby girl. He turned the clock back to 1945, the baby girl was left at the door of the orphanage. The bartender returned to the car after completing the program. Put the clock back to 1963. With the time machine activated, the bartender arrived 2 months after Xiao Shuai and Xiao Mei met. At this point, the two are completely in love. Handsome sensed the bartender coming. He told Mei to wait for him here. "I'll be back soon." Handsome just pulled out his gun and questioned the bartender, because he already knew that the person Xiao Mei met was himself. The bartender said that history can't be changed. It's all your choice. And he promised Junior he'd go with him to see Robertson. Then you'll realize the truth of everything. Look at Xiao Mei's back. Xiao Shuai's heart is full of reluctance. The two then returned to the Time Bureau in 1985. We've traveled over 20 years in one fell swoop. The result is that Xiao Shuai's body can't adapt. Look at the unconscious Xiao Shuai. Robertson agrees to retire bartender. The future tasks will be done by Xiao Shuai. Then he gave the bartender the information on the timer shard, and the time machine will automatically expire with retirement. The bartender opted to retire back in 1975, eventually. And it's the point at which the last explosion. Meanwhile, 1985's Handsome. He also took over the bartender's position. In 1992, Shuai was assigned to go on a mission. He went back to 1970 with a time machine and a bomb disposal kit. But this is the same mission the bartender failed twice that year. After Shuai successfully defused the bomb, the bomber's been spotted. He hastily pulled out his pistol to keep watch. The bomber was successfully repelled. But it's also delaying the disarming of the bomb. Not before the explosion. Put the bomb in the device. Handsome crawls desperately towards the time machine. I happened to run into a bartender who had crossed the border in the wrong year. He handed the time machine to Handsome. I've managed to get the other side to go back to 1992. After the doctor's resuscitation, Shuai is out of danger. But by now he was completely disfigured. The failure of the mission also made Shuai hold a grudge against the bomber. If I could cross again, he would have killed the bomber himself. A short time later, the doctor unwrapped Shuai's gauze. The restored face has completely changed its appearance. When Handsome grows out his hair, I can't believe it's the same guy as the bartender. And before he retired, you have to recruit your younger self. That's why it all comes full circle. Meanwhile, the retired bartender suddenly realizes, your own time machine hasn't failed. He hurriedly opened the timer shard's investigative profile, the last known location of the bouncer. The bartender went through the address to a laundromat. We found the bomber. And the bomber turned out to be his elderly self. You're a murderer. The other party hastened to explain. He's caused a lot of explosions, though, but it also indirectly saved countless lives. Like the chemical spill in 1974. A driver killed in explosion. And naturally, it stops chemical spills, thus saving over 3,000 lives. But the bartender said, his next bombing program will kill tens of thousands of people. It's all your choice. The other guy told him it was all your choice. It's all your choice. They told him, like you didn't tell them. The time machine hasn't failed yet. But if you kill me now, in the future, you'll be the next bomber. If we can work together, we can break the cycle. In the end, the bartender, in an effort to save tens of thousands of lives. Or did you choose to shoot yourself in the face? Everything goes into a new cycle. Flashes of myself at different times come to mind. Ties the whole episode together perfectly. And at some point in the future, he will continue to disguise himself as a bomber.